Hey guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing Comic Uno's Best Comics of the Week. And this week I have 9 comics to talk about, so a rather light haul for me, but hopefully next week or the week after I'll have a bit more than 9 books. But number 9 for me this week is Flash Forward issue 2. So I didn't even know this is a miniseries. Somehow I didn't catch that with the first issue, so that honestly brought my rating even lower because there's now very limited amount of issues to try to get us into the story or do whatever they're trying to do with Wally. And honestly, they don't do much in this issue. It's Wally racing around to different multiverse characters and fighting them. And, you know, meeting up with Val, I believe, is the other character, or at least the character that looks a lot like Val, but he is the President Superman. So that's the character from Grant Morrison's run on Superman in the New 52. And then we get to see some other characters as well. And then finally, by the end of the story, we finally get something, which is, spoiler alert, we get to see Irie and Jay in the end. So is this like Wally's version of the characters? Why are they lost in this multiverse? How's Wally gonna react to that? So I kind of wish that was the beginning of this issue so we could see this whole issue explore that, because I feel like the actual character narrative of Wally is just kind of sprinkled in. He's like, oh yeah, my friends, fight, 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 fight. Yeah, I miss my family. Fight, 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 fight. So I just wish it was a bit more of a character-driven story, especially because, you know, after Heroes in Crisis, I guess this is supposed to be his redemption story. Also, Wally was the key person of DC Rebirth, and I think never really met the height and the expectations that Wally was supposed to have. Then obviously, again, Heroes in Crisis ended up happening. People got upset. People didn't like the direction of the character. This could have been the perfect place to kind of redeem him, and right now he's just randomly fighting people, and I'm just not into it. So overall, I'm going to give this 1.5 stars for that long-winded conversation about Flash Forward, but I'm really disappointed with the book overall. I don't want to drop it because, like I said, I thought it was an interesting cliffhanger, but that's about it for this story. The rest was really boring to me, and I feel like very surface level for a character that could be explored so much more than he is being explored. So, like I said, 1.5 stars, that is number 9. Moving on to number 8, which is Metal Men, issue 1. Honestly, was not going to be a book I picked up, but because I had such a small haul, I was like, I guess I'll try this out. There's other books, too, that I was, like, on the fence for trying out, but then I flipped through, I'm like, I'm good. And that was Tales of the Dark Multiverse Nightfall. I'm not a hardcore Nightfall fan, so I'm like, maybe I'll pick it up. And I was looking through, I'm like, this looks really long, and it doesn't look that interesting, so I put it back. And the one I did get was Metal Men, and I don't know if that was the right choice because I didn't really like it that much. But if you're into metal, I'm Metal Men, but you know, the other metal event, I think you're going to like this a little bit more. We get to see the Nith metal, whatever it's called, related in this issue. And we kind of get a different origins of the main guy for the Metal Men. The metal people are actually part of his personality, and he's cool with creating other metal people at this point. He's kind of disappointed with his creations. And I kind of like the overall story of, I guess, a creator and their relationship with their own creation, how much they put in themselves towards that creation. But I might be reaching, honestly, because the overall story I really wasn't interested in. Again, the themes, there was like something there. There might have been something there, but definitely not enough for me to pick up the next issue. I really think the only people that need to pick up this issue, and it's 12-issue maxi too, it's even more than Flash Forward, are people that like Metal Men. I honestly only know them from the Jeff Johns Justice League stuff, so like 2 or 3 issues, and then I know their name. That's about it. And then also, people that really like metal, I think, might find something in that issue, but I think it's pretty skippable, and like I said, kind of boring. And there's not a lot of Metal Men in it. It's mostly from the creator's point of view. So I gave that 2 stars, and that is number 8. Moving on to number 7, which is Batman issue 81, and I got the variant cover for this one. I do really like these Villainier variants, but They are $4.99, so it's a little pricey, but I think it's worth it. They actually do have better quality covers as well. They're a bit harder, so in a glossy cover. So it's not like you're paying an extra dollar and not getting the quality that you deserve. Anyways, going on to the story, Batman. We kind of get the reasoning of why Batman's been really down in the dumps, and I don't really know if I wanted a reason. I just kind of like, okay, he was upset about Catwoman. He's like, no, Batman can't be upset about Catwoman. It was all part of his plan. So all the issues leading into Bane, the family was involved, and that's the story. It's a lot of exposition. There's some singing in the end of the issue, so if you missed the poetry, you missed the singing. Don't worry, we got that. And I will talk about this later with another issue, but I do not like the Year of the Villain tie-ins. They just kind of come out of left field. I'm like, why did I need this? If you want to tell a Year of Villain story, just do a tie-in. I don't need 2 pages of this and cut us from the actual story. I will say at least it was a different artist, so it does feel like more of a backup story. There's another book where it's the same artist, and it took me out of the story a little bit. Another reason I didn't really like this book is Romita Jr. artwork. Romita Jr.'s artwork. And I'm just not a fan of that bulkiness. I don't like his art style very much. And overall, we're 3 issues away to King's finale, and I'm just feeling underwhelmed overall. I mean, I like that the family was involved. That's probably what I enjoyed the most out of it. And some of the dialogue between the family was good, but I just didn't really love the reasonings behind some of the storylines here. We get to learn a little bit about Gotham Girl's Venom, but Gotham Girl's not even in the book, so overall I'm going to give this 2.5 stars. Wasn't a huge fan of it. Definitely have read worse issues of this book, but it definitely was not my favorite by any means either. So giving that 2.5 stars. Moving on to number 6. Which is Bettie Page Unbound, issue 5. And I honestly thought this was the best issue of this miniseries, which I guess they're continuing the regular Bettie Page story within Unbound now, because the next issue is a new arc, and it's issue 6 of Unbound. So I guess they're just continuing in this story and in this series. But I like seeing the consequences of Bettie becoming all these weird creatures and saying, oh, my body was that. Like, who am I if I was in all these different multiverses? And she learns from the best, which is Albert Einstein. Now, I will say I think this issue is a little crowded. There's a lot of characters being thrown at you, including Albert Einstein. But I like the overall premise, which again is Bettie figuring out who she is and what those adventures meant to her. And I thought that was a good epilogue type story for that. Artwork is always really solid. It's a fun book. I don't think it's at the height as it was when it was just the Bettie Page book, but hopefully it'll get back to that fun espionage stuff I enjoyed with the next chapter. So Bettie Page Unbound issue 5 gets 3 stars, and that is number 6. Moving on to number 5, which is Captain Marvel, issue 11. Love this cover. This is my cover of the week. I am super excited for Evil Captain Marvel coming our way next month. So that's going to be cool. Just show you guys that. But yeah, this issue is dealing with the aftermath of this Star character who's getting her own miniseries. I have to say, I have not been invested in Star, but I like what it did to Captain Marvel. I like that she was broken down in this issue. I enjoyed the ambiance of the issue as well, where you get to see, it kind of feels like, I think it actually is raining. I don't even want to say it kind of feels. It is raining, yeah, it's totally moody, and Captain Marvel puts the thing that she had inside of her into Star, and hopefully we'll get to see where that goes. There's a little teaser at the end of the issue that this isn't the end of Star, and we know that because she has her own miniseries coming. But yeah, I thought it was an interesting issue, but like I said, I'm not a huge fan of Star, so I didn't really care about that side of the story, and there were some boring parts, I would say, with some of the supporting cast members, like Havoc kind of being thrown in there, but I liked Carol's journey, and I guess her connection to her alcoholism as well, but I kind of wish there was a bit more of a lead up to those themes, even though I guess it was about Carol and power and they try to connect it to that. But yeah, I just wanted a little bit more. That way the blast of the bottle was a little bit more satisfying. But The artwork, man, is so good for this book, and I just learned that I think this is her last issue because she's going to be doing a new X-Men book, but hopefully the next artist who takes it over has a similar style to this, because, like I said, I love the moodiness of it all, love the action, especially because this is an action issue. It's the final battle between Star and Carol, and I think in that regards it was a successful issue. So Captain Marvel issue 11 gets 3 stars, and that is number 5. Moving on to number 4, which is Absolute Carnage, issue 4. Now, this is a book that I definitely see the quality of, but I'm not as attached to Eddie, so I personally don't feel as invested into it. The reason I picked it all up is because I am invested in Spider-Man. I knew it was tying into a lot of books I read, so I wanted to finish it off. There's one more issue left. And I think there is an epicness to this issue as Eddie becomes a new type of Venom. And that's literally the story, as, you know, all these other supporting characters are dealing with the demise of Carnage. Not demise, but the I guess, battle of Carnage. And I thought that was interesting. There's definitely a lot of good action. I love Stegman's artwork. I love the coloring for this book. It's just a gorgeous looking book. And yeah, I like the lead up to Eddie, but I didn't really feel invested to any particular moment in this book. And that's kind of a downer because I don't read Venom. I probably won't read Venom after Absolute Carnage. So... but it's a cool book, and if you're a hardcore Venom fan, I think you're going to love this one. And like I said, it was a good action issue and an interesting anti-hero storyline for Eddie. So Absolute Carnage issue 4 gets 3 stars, and that is number 4. Moving on to number 3. I think you guys will be surprised by this because of my reaction of issue 1, but this was kind of a lower week for me for comics, as you can see with my top 5. But Spider-Man issue 2, yeah. I want to say more, but Spider-Man feels like such a short title. But yeah, Spider-Man issue 2. I thought this was a better issue. I do think it has a little bit more uniqueness as they throw this new supporting cast member who automatically finds out that Ben is Spider-Man or has these spider powers, which I thought was pretty cool. She's rebellious, so I like their relationship. I still don't love Ben. In all honesty, I do feel like he's just pretty hollow as a character and doesn't really have much of a personality, besides that he's the son of Peter Parker. And also, you know, my big complaint is that we've seen this story a million times, what makes this unique. And I'm seeing a little uniqueness. Like I said, I think the girl added a little bit more. I like that Peter and Ben come face to face by the end, and Ben wondering about his mother and you know, how she was. He really doesn't know her. And then Aunt May, man. Aunt May is always the shining star of this book because she does know that Peter's Spider-Man and is trying to be, I guess, the angel on Ben's side to talk him up to be Spider-Man. So I thought that was pretty cool. And the artwork, of course, is really good for this book. It's definitely top-notch. So overall, I'm going to give this 3.5 stars. Not a bad issue, but still not something that's blowing my mind. And I don't know if it's a really memorable book yet, but obviously going to keep reading on and see what the full story is going to be. So I'm going to give that 3.5 stars, and that is number 3. Now, moving on to my top 2, which is really the books I really enjoyed this week, and that is X-Men issue 1. And no surprise, that's number 2, not number 1. We'll have to see what the number 1 pick was this week. But yeah, this was a really solid entry for, you know, after Powers of X and House of X, we get a really interesting story and a good setup of where the X-Men are at, and in the point of view of Cyclops mostly. And I love the opener for this book where it's totally in black and you find out this is the first time Cyclops opens his eyes and says, okay, I could do this, and Professor Xavier talking him up and making him join the X-Men, or I don't know about making him, but, you know, having him join the X-Men. So that was really cool. Love the artwork there. And then we go to the present where we have our X-Men going into this facility. They find this post-human character, which I'm sure is going to play a bigger part. And also we get to see a little bit more of their society again and their new viewpoints of where the mutants are at, which was really cool. We also get to see a lot from the Gray family, and they're kind of separate from the other island, and I thought that was really cool, and we'll see how that plays a part. But yeah, a lot of interesting little tidbits, and definitely a lot of good dialogue in this book. So overall, obviously, I think this has a lot of promise. It's a bit of a slow burn, and I'm sure it's going to continue to be a slow burn, but I like the little peaks of character development we're already seeing in the story, and, you know, even the little moments of the mutants seeing Magneto as this, you know, president-type god character was kind of interesting. But I really like Cyclops, which is weird to say, because I don't usually like Cyclops ever. But I think they put a very interesting lens on the character for this issue. So it makes me excited for X-Men again, and that's what I liked about this first issue, is that it feels bigger than anything that we've had for X-Men in a really long time. So overall, I'm going to give that 4 stars. That was a really solid read, and that is number 2. Moving on to number 1, which is Teen Titans, issue 35. This actually was the book I was talking about with the Year of the Villain stuff. I honestly think this could have even been a higher rating if it didn't have that Year of the Villain ending with Lobo. It's like, whoa, okay, what's going on? But the issue was really good, and overall I gave this a 4.5. But I enjoyed this one a lot, where we get to see the origins of Roundhouse being a villain, and it's hard to even say he's a villain, because you understand the standpoint he's at, because he thinks that Damian, and I guess kind of did, Damian killed his sister, or at least in the aftermath of him trying to take out Scarecrow, his sister ends up dying. And what I love is Damian being a little snot that he is. He says, yeah, you know, Roundhouse, everything's gonna be okay. Like, we can forgive you. And Roundhouse is like, forgive me? I should be forgiving you. You killed my sister. And everything breaks loose. He ends up putting DeJearn, I think that's how you pronounce her name, back into her bottle or her ring. And the team is going crazy, but especially Crush, because, you know, obviously she really likes her, and she's ready to fight and kill anybody, and the rest of the team's like, whoa, don't kill Roundhouse, like, let's talk this out. And that's when Crush meets up with Lobo at the end of the issue, and we'll see where those emotions go. But I really like this issue because it puts betrayal on its head here, because Teen Titans is definitely no stranger to betrayal with the Judas contract and all that, but the character we least expected to have a villainous bone in their body, being the villain, and having a really interesting reason of why they're the villain. And you could really feel for this character because, you know, Damian is a little shit sometimes. So, I thought this was a really good issue. I'm still getting used to the art. I still feel like it's a little bulky, but I overall really like this story, and I think this is the best Teen Titans has been in a really long time, and a really good issue. So if you didn't expect Roundhouse to be a villain, go check this one out and figure out why he is. It's just a really well done character arc that is not just a good issue for Roundhouse, but it was a really good issue for the surrounding characters as well as they talk to Roundhouse. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. Let me know in the comments below what were your favorite comics and your least favorite comics and everything in between. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno. Now, announcement wise, I'll be at Baltimore Comic-Con this weekend for Short Fuse Media, so definitely go check out the show over there if you live in the area. Go check out Comic Book Weekly every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, when we discuss our favorite comics and comic book news. And also go check out my Facebook and Twitter and my comics, like Father Like Daughter, and They Call Her the Dancer. So hopefully you guys enjoyed. Bye.